Buenos dias. This is Senor Irvin, and the purpose of this recording is to introduce you to something called third-person verbs. I thought it would be more appropriate for you guys to be able to see a screencast, rewind things, and even go back to this at some point in time or any point in time in case you need to review it for the final exam or even next year in Español 2 if you decided to go ahead and take that class. So anyway, this uh, presentation just runs you through these things called third-person verbs. What are they, as it says here? How do I use them correctly, and what are some examples? As you're watching this, you should pause at any moment in time that you want to take some notes. There is some paper provided that have some specific questions, and then also some worksheet kind of items that we're going to work through. And as I work through them, you can just copy them onto your piece of paper. And hopefully you do end up in the end understanding this. All right, so that's the introduction. This is third-person verbs. So first, let's take a look at what I would consider to be a regular verbs conjugation chart. And this one has included inside of it subject pronouns. Let me go through them very quickly. They are yo, and of course meaning I. And let me try my handy dandy pen here too. Let's see if I can get this to work. So yo meaning I, and then tú meaning you, of course. Usted, él, and ella are all the third person. Él, of course, meaning he. Ella meaning she. And usted is a strange little guy, meaning you, but it's formal if you don't remember that one. So like you, sir, you, ma'am, doesn't really exist in English, you formal. Nosotros over here means we, is the long word that means we. And then ustedes, ellos, and ellas is called third person plural. And we know it as words like they. Ustedes meaning you plural or y'all. I call it y'all. All right. So those are the subject pronouns that we would normally use. Um, and so these don't actually apply to these things called third person verbs. So what are we going to use instead of these typical subject pronouns? Well, you've already been introduced to one of them. It's the word me. And again, it's pronounced me and not like the word in English, me. So this word is me. We know also that that word, we're using it as to mean the word I. So as we've been applying this, we've tried to pick up the thing as far as trying to say, okay, me gusta means I like. So we said, well, me means I. We just kind of just skipped over why or whatever, and this is we're just going to explain it today. So we have, instead of using the word tú, we're using te to mean you. Um, Instead of using the words usted, él, or ella, we're using just the word le. It doesn't matter if it's a he, she, or if it's you formal. We use the word le. Nosotros, you'll be happy to see this. Instead of using nosotros meaning we use this, nos. And then the last one, instead of using the words ustedes or ellos and ellas, we use the plural form here, you can see that, meaning les. And it doesn't again matter if it's they, a group of guys, or they, a group of girls, as we had talked about before, or just you plural. All of these, we're going to use the word les. So when are we going to use these subject in or these pronouns here? When we have third person verbs. So we'll introduce the third person verbs in just a sec. You know one of them, it's gustar, as in me gusta, or in the question, te gusta? So here it is. What about the verbs? Okay, so you've done several things with these verbs here, and let me go ahead and erase this here. We talked about AR, ER, and IR verbs, and so for example, if you have an AR verb, let's use the verb like hablar. I'm going to put it up here, just testing out this new little thing here. Hablar. Hablar is an AR verb, ends in AR of course, and for each one of these pronouns before, we had to do something to the ending, and we changed it. So yo was always o, so like for example the word hablo. Let me undo that there, here we go. Hablo, or tú hablas. Sorry about my writing there. Usted lee y ella habla. Cool. And we know the rest of them. Hablamos and hablan. So that was a typical verb. So what about these third person verbs? It says, what about how do you conjugate or change these verbs? Well, you'll be happy again to hear that it's a lot easier. Instead of changing its multiple ways, 5 different ways, o, as, a, amos, an, or even the ER verbs, they have several different ways. Since they're called third person verbs, third person is basically the he and the she form or the they form if you're not exactly sure. These two sections here are the third person. So that's all we're really going to use. For example, if it's one thing that you like me gusta, and you're talking about one thing that you like, we call it singular, you're going to just use gusta. If it's more than one thing that you like, guess what we're going to do? We're going to make a plural, and we're going to add the N to it. Me gustan. Now, gustar isn't the only third person verb, or we just would introduce this topic and it would be done. There's a lot of third person verbs. And so on this next little slide, there's a list of the third person verbs, including bastar, which means to have enough of something, disgustar, which means to hate something, doler is to hurt, encantar is to love, faltar, to be missing something, fascinar is to be fascinating, gustar, of course, is the one that we've been using as our example, to like, importar is to be important, interesar is to be interesting, molestar, even though it looks like a word, it means to bother, parecer means to seem like, and sobrar is to have something left over. These are just the most common third person verbs. At this point, you should go ahead and pause the recording and write them down into your notes. Okay? Hopefully you paused the recording, you wrote down the third person verbs into your notes. You're going to need them in just a little bit to be able to complete the worksheets. But before we do any of that stuff, have those notes out, and let me go to the next slide and let's start asking and answering some questions that utilize these verbs so you can see how we go ahead and use them. All of these are written in the te form or the you form, informal. So they're asking, do you, and then some kind of a question. So the first one is easy. Let's go through them. See if I can choose. Let's choose crazy color. Let's go blue. And then let me try to get my writing tool here. Let's see if I can write these without messing this up. Let's see. So, ¿te gusta la clase de biología? Do you like biology class? ¿Te gusta? And so I'm going to write an answer here of sí me gusta. And we know how to do that. We've done these kind of answers before. So we have sí me gusta la clase de biología. De biología. Okay, so we're talking about classes here. How about this next one? Again, we have the word te, not tú, and it just means do you. And then we have the word encanta on your list. If you looked it up, it says encanta means to love. So we have, ¿te encanta la clase de inglés? Ooh, I'm going to put, no me encanta. And you can fill the rest of this in. La clase de inglés. Let's look at the rest of them. ¿Te interesa la clase de matemáticas? ¿Te interesa? Interesar means do you find it interesting? Sí, me interesa la clase de matemáticas. You'll notice here, okay, what I'm doing with this, super easy. I'm writing in the third person. They just end in A. If it was more than one thing, I'd have to write something different here. I'd have to make it plural. For example, on the next one, te fascinan. You can see it's more than one already, but here it is for sure. Los videojuegos. Do you find video games fascinating? That's what it really means. If we're going to say no, you put no me, and then this is, you have to make it plural. This is really the only change that you have to worry about. No me fascinan los videojuegos. And so big change there. It's either going to end in the singular form or the plural form here. Make it sure that's an N. How about this one? ¿Te disgusta la clase de historia? Do you hate history class? Sí, me disgusta la clase de historia. Just don't tell Señor Crop. Bueno? Okay. Muy bien. So that's basically how you utilize them. You have a worksheet that Señor Irvin has given you. Why don't I do some of the examples with you? So this worksheet up at the top, it includes all of the vocab words that you already wrote down just in case you missed them, okay? And then there's a verdadero and falso part here. I'm not going to worry too much about this part right now. I'm going to do some examples on these actual writing parts here. See? So down at the bottom it says, truth is important to me. So let me help you out with this part. And it says, truth is la verdad. So if you want to copy down this, it'd be awesome. La verdad. Okay. Is important to me. Okay, so this, I'm going to change it to a third person verb. Since the word me is in there, I'm going to change it to I or me. See, me. And then important, it told me that it was importar. So it's only one thing that's important to me, the truth. So me importa. In English, we wrote it way differently than we did in Espanol. And you notice I didn't even replace that word is there. I'm going to do that several times just throughout this thing. I don't like spiders. Okay, so don't is no. Okay, like is gustar, so no me gusta, because I don't like them. And then spiders are las arañas, a word that you don't really know, but I'll put it down here anyway for you. Las arañas. Cool. Let's keep doing some examples here. Let me see if I can get this to go to the next page. Perfect. On the back side of that same sheet, it says my stomach aches or it hurts. Muy bien. So my stomach says, oh, I'm going to put me. It's me that is hurting. And doler is an interesting verb that later on you'll learn why it does this thing as far as OTUE. Just copy it down for right now. Me duele, and stomach is el estómago. Me duele el estómago. I have too many books. Too many or overflowing. There's a word called sobrar. So again, I have too many. So me. And there's more than one book. So I'm going to put, instead of sobra, sobran. And then many is muchos. And libros. Me sobran muchos libros. Cool. She likes the fall, like the season, the fall. That one's an easy one, so I'll let you do that one. How about it seems ridiculous to me? Seeming is parecer. So again, me parece. And I chose me because right here it says me or I. Me parece. And ridiculous in Espanol is a similar word called ridículo. Muy bien. Me parece ridículo. I love your dress. Me encanta tu vestido. Cool. All right. So let me go through these and write down words that you may not know so that you can have the rest. We have $10 left over. So dollars are dólares. And let me write down that $10. And you fill in the rest about the we have them left over. There's the verb right there, left over. Your attitude disgusts me, or I hate your attitude. Look for the word hates. And attitude is super easy word. It's called actitud. So that'll help you out. Ice cream in Espanol is helado. A button is un botón in Espanol. That's easy, huh? These photos, estas fotos. And then the verb is actually in the fascinating thing. Sorry about that. Fotos. The movie, la película. And then find, there's the verb right there. What's important to you? Of course, que. And it's you, and then this verb right here, important. His manners disgust me. Sus maneras, his manners. And then the rest of them is the disgusting and then the me parts. So me disgustan. See? He seems egotistical to me. Seeming is parecer. Egotistical. Egoísta. Cool. All right. Anytime you see the me, it's me in front. Awesome. Do the best you can. Finish up the worksheet there. Hopefully this explained it to you. You can watch this as many times as you want. Fill in the sections here. And adios. Hasta la vista.